Needless Things Podcast. Hey, Phantomaniacs, welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things Podcast, where we talk about toys, movies, music, and all manner of pop culture dorkery. I'm your host, Dave, and I just realized I have to put this episode together right now. I worked an overtime day yesterday, I work tomorrow, I work Thursday, so I'm not going to have time. And we record our big Black Friday special Thursday night. You are not going to want to miss that. It comes out on, shockingly, Black Friday. So you'll have something to listen to while you drive around town looking for gifts for your loved ones, or perhaps just sit in front of your computer browsing the internet. We will help you find just the right gift for just the right person. So too much going on in the next few days, and I just realized, oh man, I've got to do this now. So I'm doing this now. I have no intro notes, which I usually have a couple of little things scrawled down to talk about. I don't have that right now because I want to get this done and get it not posted, but loaded up, ready to post on Friday. So first thing I'm going to talk about, this literally just happened. The Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates Party Wagon was just unveiled. They put up a teaser photo a few days ago, and now they have officially... Well, I actually found out about it because BigBadToyStore.com put their pre-orders up first before I saw anything from Super 7. So I went into I saved all the pictures, went in the Needless Things Podcast Facebook group, which you should join, by the way, and shared all the pictures. And... it's funny, I was talking about this with Christian from Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast, which you can find the first Friday of every month wherever you get your podcasts. When we're off the air, we talk about things other than G.I. Joe. I was talking to Christian about this thing and kind of speculating on the price, and I thought it was going to be coming about $350 because it seemed to me that it wouldn't be as complicated as the Thunder Tank. But now that I am seeing these pictures, I realize I was wrong about that. It has a lot of moving parts. As a matter of fact, there is on the pre-order page, which you can go, if you order it from Big Bad Toy Store, it's $500. But there you've got the $4 shipping, and you don't have to pay for it right now. If you back it directly from Super 7, it's $450, but you have to pay for the shipping, which is probably going to be close to $500 anyway. So it's up to you how you want to back it. I tend to back through Super 7 only because, for the most part, I've gotten things earlier, like it comes direct from Super 7. But I do know that the first series of NJPW wrestling figures, Big Bad Toy Store got them before Super 7, or not even Big Bad Toy Store, Big Bad Toy Store customers got them before Super 7 got them. So... but I think that's because of all of the weird stuff going on with shipping in the world right now. I don't think that's going to be the standard going forward. At least, I hope not, because all of my pre-orders, as I mentioned, are directly from Super 7. So anyway, going through the pictures on Super 7's website, there are more than what are available from Big Bad or Instagram or wherever. And there's I can't remember the term for this. It is a picture of the party wagon, almost like it's blowing up, and I think it might be called like a blowout picture. It's all of the pieces separated in relation to one another, and that's where you can really see all of the different parts that are in this thing, and it really is an amazing looking toy. I'm curious about the windows, though, because I'm just now noticing it doesn't look like there's clear plastic in the window. Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Okay. I'm sorry. This literally, just went up, so I honestly haven't had time to look at it as closely as I'd like. Okay, so the rear windows all actually have clear plastic in them, which, I mean, yes, of course they should. This is a deluxe toy. I say deluxe twice because that's how deluxe it is. And looking at the back, initially it looked like the rear windows were stickers, but then there's another angle where it looks like they're actual windows. And of course, I think some of this is renders, some of it is mock-ups. Oh, no, wait, it's just the glare. Oh, how wild is that? Okay. So there's an image of the back of the van opened up, and you can see the engine inside, which, by the way, this includes tools for Donatello to work on the van. So the engine compartment is open, and you can see a little bit of the windows on the sides. And because of the glare, it kind of looks like window stickers, like are on the retro party wagon. But they're not. It's all clear plastic all the way around. The stickers are all here, everything. Like, it is a super version of the original party wagon. The interior is immaculately detailed with equipment and pizza slices and duct tape on the seats and seat belts and a phone. It's insanity how much detail is in this thing, and this is what you wanted this party wagon to look like when you were a kid, which is what Super 7's Ultimates are all about. There is a gigantic boombox that fits into a slot in the party wagon, but is also removable, so it can be carried around separately. There's a label sheet, so you can choose which of the stickers you want to put on the van, which you don't. There are blast effect, like damage effects that you can put on. Skateboard sticker, foot stinks, cowabunga, boot the foot, like all the great Ninja Turtles graffiti style stickers. And dimensionally, this is, I'm trying to find the dimension picture, because it's there we go. Dimensionally, this is from the top of the radar dish to the bottom of the wheels, 13.8 inches tall, and from the tip of the laser on the front to the rear of the spoiler, 20.25 inches. So grab your measuring tape and figure out exactly how gigantic this thing is. Very large vehicle, which I think that's another thing I was kind of underestimating when I was talking about the price with Christian, is the sheer size of it. It is also, it's not as big as the Thunder Tank, or not as long as the Thunder Tank, but it is still a very large vehicle, loaded with detail and with lots and lots of separate parts. So, obviously, I want it right now. I absolutely cannot go in on it. I'm in for a Sky Striker. My RoboSkull payment just went through. It's just not. And what else is? Oh, I've got the G.I. Joe Ultimates. The second wave is. There's just too much. There's too much right now. I cannot. The party wagon, as much as I'd like to have it, I've got the retro one to go with my retro Turtles. So this one doesn't seem as essential in the grand scheme of everything that I collect. Now, Christmas is coming, which I would imagine this is Super 7's intent here, because this pre-order is live Tuesday, November 16th through Tuesday, December 14th. You know what? If I were them, I would have probably done it through, like, December 31st. I think that would have been a little smarter, because people get Christmas money, and then they're like, hey, I'm going to get that party wagon. But whatever. If you have a loved one who loves Ninja Turtles, and you've got the disposable income to spend $500 on a party wagon, go ahead and pre-order this thing. It's due in the fourth quarter of 2022. So that's our big news for today. Black Friday deals are already going up now. Yesterday, I ordered The Fifth Element 4K release and Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. I just got the regular Blu-ray because apparently some studios are not doing the 4K plus Blu-ray thing anymore. and our projector downstairs is not 4K, nor does it really need to be honest. So I just got the Blu-ray of Snake Eyes, and that was $7.96. And then the Fifth Element, I think, was $9.99 for the 4K. Lots of deals going up right now. And that was why I waited to buy Snake Eyes, is I was like, you know what? Christmas is right around the corner, and they're going to be doing Black Friday stuff. Target and Walmart are going to have those giant cardboard shelving units full of dirt cheap movies. So I'm not buying anything right now unless it's like a Shout Factory release, because those things are going to be loaded with cheap movies very, very soon. All right. What else have we got to talk about? We started watching a movie on Shudder called Great White last night, and we got about 10 or 15 minutes in, and I was just wiped because I'd worked 4 12-hour shifts in a row, and I didn't have it in me. Actually, as soon as I get done doing this, I'm going to go upstairs. We're going to finish watching Great White. It was gorgeous. The way it was shot was absolutely beautiful. So I'm excited to see the movie, but now it's almost like, well, now I'm more hooked visually than I am story-wise. And the characters are fine. Katrina Bowden, who you may know from 30 Rock and some other things. Well, she was also... Okay, I might be wrong on this. This just popped into my head. I believe she was in Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I think she's the young heroine in that movie. I think I'm right about that. But anyway, Great White on Shudder. Lots of stuff on Shudder has dropped recently. So if you don't have Shudder, it's worth it if you're a horror fan. There's always something to watch. You guys, what else have we got going on? Oh, you know what we've got going on? What we've got going on is this week's episode of the Needless Things podcast. I haven't even told you what we're talking about. So I had this great idea a couple of months ago. Where I would sit down with a guest or guests, and this, because of my time crunch schedule, this episode kind of happened last minute. So Mr. Beau Brown was my like, oh man, I got to do this night. Let's go. And he was game. So we got together with Pixel Dan's The Toys of Masters of He-Man and Masters of the Universe book, the big giant book that's absolutely fantastic. Speaking of holiday gifts, if you have a loved one that is into He-Man, Pixel Dan's book is a great gift. But I've been sitting down with it, and I was like, you know what would be really fun is to play a game of Eternian Roulette, where we take turns just flipping to random pages in the book, and then we'll talk about whatever's on that page. So that's what we did today. So this is it's a Masters of the Universe episode, but it's very focused using Pixel Dan's book as a tool. Now, we're not really, like, we pick pieces of information out of the book, but as with all needless things, most of the information is just what's coming out of our heads and our memories and our love of Masters of the Universe. So, you guys, I believe it is time to just get right down to it. Grab... what kind of beverage is appropriate for Masters of the Universe? I think I've wondered this before. At the time, I was drinking Ace Pump. No, I wasn't. I was having a little bit of bourbon when we recorded this, I think. So take your pick. Ace Pumpkin Cider, if you can still get your hands on it. I still have a few bottles in the refrigerator because I just haven't had time to polish them off yet. Like I said, been working a lot. Been a little busy. Or the bourbons that I recommend, Four Roses, Elijah Craig, or... a fistful of bourbon it's a little too sweet for me, but I like it. So one of those three bourbons. Grab whatever beverage you like. Sit back, relax, and listen to myself and Mr. Beau Brown once again talking about Masters of the Universe with a tour guided somewhat, sort of, by Pixel Dan. We're here tonight with Mr. Beau Brown. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Beau Brown.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
We each have our copies of Pixel Dan's The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, also featuring She-Ra, Princess of Power. A massive tome dedicated to chronicling the mainline releases from the various Masters of the Universe toy lines. It is a phenomenal book. I have been this is what I do. Beau, how much have you dipped into this?
I've actually dipped in quite a lot. I have just sat and read it a couple of times and just sort of like, I was like, oh, let me take a look at, some of the stuff that I might not be as familiar with, like New Adventures stuff or, some of the stuff that came out towards the end of the original vintage line. I know that I looked through pretty much the entire Shira section too, to just, familiarize myself more with it than just like, hey, I know all the characters.
Yeah.
But, all because there were just lots of different play sets and different fashion sets and things like that I didn't know anything about. So it was kind of cool to see a lot of the more obscure Shira releases beyond just like knowing the mythology.
That's kind of what I do is I make my breakfast and I sit down with the book and my breakfast. And as I eat my breakfast, I flip through however many pages of the book that I make it through while I'm eating. And
so so what's like a good 6 toy breakfast?
I tend towards Eggwiches.
That doesn't seem like that many toys.
They're well, if I'm a when I am eating and reading or eating and doing something, I'm a pretty slow eater. Like if I'm
eating an Eggwich and chewing gum at the same time.
Not at all like that, but okay. When I'm not on the clock, I take my time and enjoy my food and enjoy whatever it is that's going along with my food.
Nice.
But this book is so large that I have a little box. It's something out of the Mrs.'s coffee caddy. I think it's for cleaning. Like what's inside of it is for cleaning the coffee maker, but it's this box that's the perfect shape to prop the front open because I've got my food in front of me, so the book is not in front of me.
Yeah, because you don't want to lean over the book and get
food all over the book. It's a pricey, it's a wonderful book, but it's a pricey book.
Yeah, it's 751 pages.
It's massive, both in length and in dimensions
and girth.
So if in order to see the far page, it has to be propped up on this box for me to see it. That's how large this book is. But I've been making my way through it over the past few months here and just having a blast. As you said, seeing things that I maybe didn't look at before. Like I never collected any of the 2000X vehicles. I wasn't overly familiar with the New Adventures line. I had a couple of the figures when they first came out, but the vehicles.
And then you were like, "Wow, these suck."
Yeah, pretty much.
I want more of these.
And then the Princess of Power, like you said, I didn't know anything about the fashion sets, and those are awesome. Agreed. So having sat and enjoyed this book and gone through it, I thought, what would be really fun if I sat down with Mr. Beau Brown and we played a game of Eternian Roulette.
Ooh.
Where we will just sort of grab the book without looking, pick a page and open the book up, and whatever we'll go back and forth, we'll take turns, and whatever comes up, we'll discuss that thing regardless of how much we know about it, regardless of whether or not we've made it that far in our reading. We'll discuss if we have memories of it, what we think of it, and just go through and spend about an hour-ish with this incredible book that the wonderful Pixel Dan put together. But before we do all that,
let's do it. Let's spin the wheel.
In the event that we have some listeners that are maybe new, that maybe haven't met us before, I think we should lay a little groundwork with our Masters of the Universe background. For myself, I was a G.I. Joe kid. I went World's Greatest Superheroes, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like those were my big progressions, with a few figures from other lines here and there. My recollection up until I guess last year was that I just didn't have, I had like Merman and that was it when I was a kid. But as I've been collecting the Origins line and getting these figures in my hands, and they're that
Awakening
tactile
long
memories,
dormant.
right? I know for a fact I had Triclops, Man-E-Faces, Skeletor, which the book actually clued me in that I had Skeletor because I had the one with the purple just on the fronts of his feet.
Right.
And that's how I thought all Skeletors were.
Yeah.
But just a few Masters of the Universe figures. I had no play sets, no vehicles, no nothing. But I loved the cartoon, watched the cartoon religiously. And like I said, got a couple of the New Adventures figures because the aesthetics appealed to me a bit more. But then once I got them in hand, I was like, these are garbage.
Yeah.
And then with 2000X, that's actually when I became, I guess, a grown Masters of the Universe fan, because I loved the cartoon. I collected the line as best I could, as best anybody could, as difficult as that line was to collect. And then another thing that this book reminded me of that I'd completely forgotten about is I bought a bunch of the anniversary reissue figures that came out. I think it was 2000, maybe. I had a bunch of those and I sold them all on eBay like a dum-dum because I kept them all mint in box because the boxes were so beautiful.
Oh, really?
So
what
at
are they
one
going for
point,
now? Are they going for a lot now?
Oh, I have no idea. I sold those to pay, I think, for 2000X figures. Like it was within a couple of years because those disappeared from the market. And within a couple of years of when they were gone from the market, the prices on them shot up. I feel like the He-Man and Battle Cat set, I got like $150 for.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for back then, that was hard to resist, especially considering I did not have the job that I have now. It was a different time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we all know, well, you and I know my classic story. They hooked me in with that Dart and Scare Glow, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
And now I have a freaking Snake Mountain, much like yourself.
But it's so worth it.
Oh, it's totally. I have no regrets whatsoever. And I paid more than the original price for it.
Yeah.
And still no regrets.
Yep.
So what about your end of Masters?
You're definitely. I was a briefly a Star Wars toy kid. Very briefly, but by preschool, I was deep in He-Man and was getting. My mom worked at Lionel Playworld. I don't know if I ever told you that.
Whoa! Yeah, no, what a revelation!
Yeah, my mom worked at Lionel Playworld, so like I would every now and then I would get, like, mom would bring home a toy or something.
Was this the one on Buford Highway?
No, this is the one that was up by Gwinnett Place Mall.
I don't even remember one being by Gwinnett Place Mall.
Yeah, there was one there. It was, I mean, it may have been there before the mall. But yeah, so my mom worked there, so she would bring some toys home every now and then. I remember she went away on a trip, which was really unusual. And when she got back, like on an airplane, that was very unusual for my mom back then. And when she got back, she brought me back a Whiplash. I have vivid memories of getting the Whiplash like at the airport. I have memories of being in preschool with my little Cobra Khan, and I was squirting water in my mouth in the hallway of the preschool. I remember going to, parties, like other kids' birthday parties. I had a lot of figures. I never got the castle until later. And even then, my childhood castle was bought at a flea market. And then never had Snake Mountain, always wanted it. It was like the thing that when you were at the mall and you threw a coin in the fountain, I wished for Snake Mountain. That was my wish. And the Battle Ram was I didn't have a lot of vehicles. I didn't have a lot of the big stuff. I just had a lot of figures. And I think there was another kid in my neighborhood that had Snake Mountain. There was definitely a kid in my neighborhood who had the Battle Ram. And so that became really like the coolest vehicle because the jet sled could come off of it. And the jet sled was in, the cartoon and stuff. And I definitely watched the cartoon. And then New Adventures happened, and I remember getting some new. I think I got New Adventures He-Man and some other new event, maybe Slushhead. Now Slushhead was kind of a cool figure, but the He-Man I was offended. I was personally offended.
Was it the ponytail or the blue tights?
Well, not just that, but just for the design of the figures. They just didn't look like He-Man figures. They looked like G.I. Joes, and I didn't collect G.I. Joes.
Right.
And I, and for me, like I've said, what drew me to He-Man was definitely the ensemble variety of the characters, which is why I was attracted to He-Man rather than Transformers, because at the end of the day, they're all robots, and they're not, I hope you like robots, because that's all we got. And then same with GI Joe, was just like, we got army guys. And whereas the He-Man figures were so much bigger and bulkier than the Kenner Star Wars figures that I was familiar with, and they just had such bright colors and were so wacky, and you could have a spider guy and a and a skunk guy and a cowboy and a ninja, and everything fit. And so that's definitely why I loved it.
Size wise, Masters did seem like a better deal, because you were getting a much bigger figure than the other lines at the time.
Yeah,
which was the idea.
Yeah, that was totally the idea, and it was just so much more satisfying to smash them together. Smashing two Star Wars figures together,
right. Right.
But you get two He-Man figures together, and you're talking some action. So that's what really attracted me to it. And then I sort of naturally went straight into Turtles when I got out of He-Man and was disappointed by New Adventures. Turtles was basically waiting right there for me, saying, hey, you love that wacky cast of characters that everybody's super different and weird? We got you, buddy. You're home. And so I may have ended up having more Ninja Turtles figures vintage than He-Man, probably, in the long run.
Well, I mean, there just were more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there were more, and they were more accessible, I think. And I was older at the time, and I think I had, I think maybe more money at my disposal to get my own stuff rather than just like hoping.
Yeah, see, that was the deal with Turtles with me too, is even though I was older and I loved Ninja Turtles, but not as deeply and purely as I loved Star Wars and G.I. Joe, just because I was older. But I actually had, at that point in my life, some disposable income.
Right.
So I had more carte blanche to just buy all the Turtles I wanted.
Yeah.
As opposed to relying on mom.
Exactly. So then I pretty much got out of toys for a while. And then when when 2000X fired up, I was all about the show. Me and my buddy were watching every episode, and I was, it was my first real experience adult toy hunting, where, it was like, let's get in the car and go to every store in a, certain mile radius. And this is before, the internet got to where it was.
Yeah. You still had to hunt.
You still had to actually go and hunt for stuff. And
you didn't pre-order a figure 9 months before it came out.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when like the Snake Man wave showed up at Aldi. I was there, scouring the Aldis looking for stuff. And I had lots of the 2000X figures. I had the castle, I had vehicles, I had all sorts of stuff. And then pretty much after, then I started to get burnt out on all the repaints. Then the line took a dive, but with cost cutting and just lots of repaints and stuff. And it just wasn't as exciting to collect, because it was like, wow, more Jungle Attack. The pegs are just full of Jungle Attack He-Man, and then towards the end, Snake armor, everybody. That's just a different paint job with a bigger accessory.
Well, and what's funny about this book, though, is looking at some of those figures from that time that were so plentiful and that were clogging the pegs and thusly becoming boring and repetitive. Looking at them just on their own in this book, there's some really cool figures that I didn't buy because there were 50 of them and they just weren't appealing because they were so unavoidable.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I had like Wolf Armor, He-Man, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, part of it was that it that line, because of its hyper detail, it painted itself into a corner of not being able to take advantage of one of He-Man's core toy concepts, which is reuse of parts.
Right. So all they could do was repaint the same characters.
They could repaint the same character, but you couldn't mix and match pieces to make the different characters
in hideous colors.
Yes. And I think that's where Origins learned the lesson. They were like, no, we got to do it. What makes He-Man, and it's why we have Faker and Scareglow and Keldor and all these characters so early, because they're going, we're going to put out the variety of figures that we used to, but we're still going to reuse the same parts.
Yeah.
And basically do it like they did it in the vintage style, and they're getting way more toy out of their molds for Origins than they could possibly do with 2000X, because you can't build,
Speaking of Origins, this is so annoying to me. So I get almost all of my Origins from Big Bad Toy Store.
Same.
Because it's just easier to do it.
Unless you want them in a hurry.
Well, most of the time, though, they've gotten here before I've ever seen them at retail, if I even see them at retail. But in this instance, I got Snake Goddess, or no, the Goddess, not Snake Goddess, the Goddess and Web Store, and a bunch of other stuff came into my pile of loot. So I was all right, ship it. They shipped it the next day. Lords of Power Beastman.
Oh, no.
And Stinkor came into my pile of loot.
Really? Because they're not in mine yet.
Lords of Power Beastman and Mosquitor came into my pile of loot. And I was like, okay, I've got a couple other things. And for the listeners, if you're not familiar, Big Bad Toy Store has a system where if you pre-order things, you can assign them to go into your pile of loot and wait for stuff to come in and then ship it all at once for their $4 flat rate shipping, which is phenomenal.
Great. Yeah.
It really makes up for the upcharge that they do on most of their items. But anyway,
I agree.
So Mosquitor came in and I'm like, okay, so those two are sitting there. Let me give it a couple more weeks because I know I've got other stuff coming in at the end of October. Well, then because of everything that's going on, stuff gets moved back to November. And I was like, I'll wait. And then I got a notice, hey, your Jada Toys Creature from the Black Lagoon is coming any day now. Okay, I'll wait. And now I've got Stinkor, Mosquitor, Lords of Power Beastman sitting there waiting to be shipped. Today, stopped by Target on the way home. They have all of these figures except for Mosquitor on the pegs. And I'm like, well, I can't freaking buy them. Now I got to wait. But I still haven't shipped my pile of loot because that damn creature is hitting any day now.
Yeah.
Because usually when they give you the heads up, your pre-order is getting to arrive. It's within a couple of days.
Yeah. My Mosquitor has been sitting in the pile of loot for a while. I'm just waiting for some other things to fill in behind it. And
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what happens to me every single time is I'll sit and I'll wait and I'll finally say, okay, you know what? This isn't coming in, ship it. And every single time the day after I ship it, something comes in. It's infuriating.
Well, yeah, so I collected 2000X and really enjoyed it. And then there wasn't, let's see, within what Classic started in what, 2008? 2008, yeah.
Wasn't the first King Grayskull was 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And then 2009, I may be off on this. Oh, you know what? There's a good way we can find out.
That's true. It's right there.
If only we had
some sort of resource about the subject we're currently
to tell us when this could have possibly happened. Speaking of Wolf Armor He-Man, there he is.
There he is.
All right. So, yeah, Adora came out in 2010. So he does not. Well, let me just get to He-Man. We'll cheat this one time and look for a specific thing just because we need the information. He-Man, most powerful man in the universe, 2008. So did Grayskull come out in 2007?
Well, look for King Grayskull. Let's see.
Oh, right. We're totally ruining our concept here, but
yeah, that's okay. We'll get to it. ABC,
whatever. The people will appreciate it. 2008 was King Grayskull. So I thought he was San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes.
So they got him out in like July and then turned right around and had He-Man ready to go, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's wild. I didn't realize it was that soon. I was thinking he was like the year before.
Yeah.
So anyway, there we go.
Collected classics. I have every classics thing that I think I want. I think there's a handful of things I don't have. Like I don't think I have the Orange Ram Man.
Yeah, I didn't get that one. There's a lot.
I don't think I got Ultimate Tila. I didn't get Ultimate Tila or Ultimate Ram Man, but I have Ultimate He-Man and Skeletor, and pretty much and there's very little I have every character for sure, like every individual specific character.
Yeah. The only thing
was great. And then Origins came, and now it's here, and I'm in fantastic. On the Mondos and although I don't know about if I can keep doing the Mondos.
Yeah.
I have both my Hordax are here. I have my blue and my black Hordax.
Oh, you got both? Oh my god.
Yeah, I got both. I know. I'm thinking I might just sort of have to make a call and only pick one to open and display and just squirrel the other one away.
Yeah.
The thing about these Mondos is you buy two and you resell one and you paid for
two. For both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
like a HasLab where if you've got the funds to do two of a HasLab item,
yeah,
then you'll pay it off. You'll end up spending
money.
And
I got the Keldor, because that Skeletor head that came with the Keldor is so good.
Yeah.
That I hate it, but I bought that Keldor just for that head, and I don't display the Keldor. I just have that head on my Skeletor. Because they take up so much space, and I'm still working on trying to figure out some new shelving solutions in here. And I got the giant robot Skeletor, so I'm in on some of the Mattel Creation stuff that's He-Man related.
That thing is beautiful. We saw it at where were we? When have we gone to a convention? Oh, it was somebody had one down at Dragon Con. That's because that's the only place I've been.
Oh yeah.
It looks.
Well, he's great with the little Mega Constructs He-Man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's perfect. You just sort of take his
legs off and stick him in the hand. Yeah.
Giant Skeletor's got him. It works
that's great. I love it.
All right, we should do the thing.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I had a coin on my desk, but I did not anticipate the amount of space I would need to clear for this book. So I don't know where my coin went, but I have right here a 4 GB Kingston SD memory card. I'm going to flip this to determine which one of us goes first.
You are the worst Batman villain, the worst.
I'm
low-tier Batman villain ever.
I'm Ted Chip. So call heads or tails while it's in the air. Call it.
Tails.
Tails it is.
All right.
So you will go first.
Now, I kind of feel like, though, that since the book is so sectioned off by line, there's no randomly choosing a page. You're either going to be in the front of the book, the middle, or the back.
I mean, I think what you can do is just pull it up, take your fingers, and kind of let pages flip, and then just wherever you feel like stopping, just stop and open it up.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Do you have a computer or another phone?
Pardon me?
Do you have another device near you that you could put a random number generator on and be like, Google random number generator 0 through 751?
I mean, I guess if you want to do it that way, that doesn't seem as organic to me.
You're right, but I feel like it's more.
Okay.
No way not to have the bias of knowing where you are in the book generally.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. Okay, so how many pages is this?
751.
751?
Yeah, 751 pages.
Holy shit.
I know.
Okay, minimum. Well, we don't want to start with page 1.
Right.
So we'll do what's the last page with content?
The last page with content or with a figure on it
Well, yeah, that's what I meant.
Is going to be 747.
Okay, so we've got page 20 to 747.
Now this is how you do it.
How's how you do it?
This is how you do it.
What?
Now there's no.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I get what, yeah, you're right. All right. So are you ready to generate your number?
Please generate my number.
Generating now. 127.
127. All right.
This is also easier because we both kind of get it at the same time. And if it's a page that doesn't have, what a way to start.
That is a fantastic start.
What a start. All right.
What a start. Thunder Punch He-Man. Fantastic. Easily one of my favorite of the variants. And in fact, easily my favorite vintage variant. I had Thunder Punch He-Man. I had the caps. I think I still have my Thunder Punch He-Man.
Well,
actually.
explain the technology of Thunder Punch He-Man to the listeners.
You know, they just don't make toys like this anymore. They don't make the toys with small explosions, self-contained small explosions anymore. So Thunder Punch He-Man was a brilliant toy gimmick where Mattel obviously was making cap guns. And so they reused some of their cap gun technology inside this He-Man here. He had a backpack that could load an orange backpack, and my favorite color was orange. This was the orange He-Man.
Oh, nice.
I had when I was a kid. So you put the little circular cap thing into his backpack, which had metal. You know, it had metal parts. This was an action figure with metal parts, which definitely doesn't happen anymore. And you could crank his waist back and then let him go. And he also came with an enclosed fist. He had an open hand fist that he could use for accessories, and then he had just a punching fist, and you could pull him back and let him go, and it would activate the cap, and it would go pop when he hit people, and it was so great because it was toys and fireworks together, peanut butter and chocolate.
Well, and
I love Thunder Punch. That's a perfect character. His little headline there is, "Leader of the heroic warriors now packs a loud power punch." It's just a fantastic example of, a great toy gimmick. And it looks like they said that they did release separate Thunder Punch ammo. Like you could buy just the ammo.
And I remember that.
I bet those are impossible to find.
I bet you're right.
On card.
You know what? I'm going to look it up right now and see.
I've never even seen that before.
If I can find some. Came out in 1985.
Yep.
Thunder Punch He-Man refill, maybe?
No, it was called Thunder Punch Ammo.
$151.95. Buy it now. Is that
the one?
That's the only listing I see on eBay right now.
Yeah. What shape is that one in?
It's all bent up. It is not.
Wow.
Let me click on it.
That's great.
It's got it's huge. It's so it is not. It's 27 replacement cap rings.
Nice.
It's got some really nice art. It's got actual art of how it works rather than just pictures of the figure. I remember
art that's in the book on the back of the card on the figure.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. It looks really nice. The one that is up here is not in good shape. It's been literally like folded in half, but it's a nice looking piece.
I never even knew that they did that until I read that entry right there.
Oh,
That's
really?
Great.
I specifically remember these being in the stores. I remember these. Wow, that's great. What an awesome start. What a great start. And I would say, I think Thunder Punch He-Man is probably after Battle Armor He-Man. He's probably the variation.
The Battle Armors were the first.
They were the first people would name and remember, I would think. I mean, I remember this guy. I remember the commercial for this guy. He was definitely his sculpt, particularly his upper body and arms, look much more simplistic. They're more rounded and basic looking.
It's bulkier. He is bigger than the regular He-Man too.
I remember when I was a kid thinking he looked like kind of crappier.
Oh,
but caps in 1985,
yeah,
caps were a big deal.
Caps were king.
Yeah,
caps were king. All right. Well, I think that was a very successful first round.
Yes, awesome start. Now let's find out my first pick.
Dave Computer 2000, please.
The Davotron 2000. 190.
190.
And if we end up on a page that's like text or whatever, we'll move on. Oh no. Truly.
Oh
no. One of my now to be fair, I'm speaking of the classics line, which we're not talking about right now. We're talking about the original, first released in 1987 from the Princess of Power line.
Yeah.
Netossa, the captivating beauty, member of the Great Rebellion. And I will say this, I was not a fan of the classics figure. I think this figure looks fantastic because she has an actual net. I love her silver wings. Her headgear looks cool. I really like the original Netossa figure a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about Netossa other than the fact that she's one of the hardest to get Princess Power figures because she was towards the end of the line and wasn't produced. She didn't have a very big production run. So she is like the holy grail for a lot of Shira collectors. But other than that, I don't really know a whole about her. I never noticed the way her net worked. That it does it have like a little drawstring on the bottom of the bag?
Yeah, it looks like it's actually like a big circle.
Yeah, like a tube.
And it sort of just
cinched up at the top and then open at the bottom.
That's right.
Cool. I didn't actually know that.
Which is much better than the plastic net that came with the classics figure. This is fantastic, and it's representation in the line. We have a black character in a predominantly white line, which is awesome to see. I mean, the 80s, say what you will about the 80s, but in general, the toy makers were trying to be conscious of such things. And the cartoon makers.
Yeah.
Because to go back to G.I. Joe had tons of representation. And again, that's, here we see it with.
Well, admittedly, in G.I. Joe's case, they had to make them all people.
That's true. That's true. They needed.
You couldn't get away with he's a skunk.
By its nature, right? By its nature, the diversity was necessary. Yeah. But yeah, I really, really dig this figure, and I wish that the classics figure had been a little more true to this one. I think it would have made for a much more interesting figure.
Yeah, I definitely think that the sort of her head piece there. The scallopy kind of wing look like wings on her vintage figure do not look good on the classics figure. That they're these weird kind of.
We're gonna do some more cheating. I'm gonna turn ahead to the classics Netossa.
Okay.
We're gonna get really wild here tonight, Beau.
Well,
we're gonna get out of control. But I do want to do a direct comparison, and I don't want to leave it to the random number generator to bring us to her. Good Lord. Page 553.
There we go. Yeah.
Woof. What a.
I don't. Yeah. How are those things on the side of her head an improvement? And like she doesn't even have the headdress, the sort of cowl thing. It's just those big weird scallopy doos on the side of her head, on the side of her hair.
And her hair's really not quite the right shade of blue. This was, as much as I love classics and as much as I love Toy Guru, this classics figure was a miss.
Yeah. And they changed like all the silver, like the skirt and those wingy things are are silver on the vintage.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of this powder blue that, meh.
Well, I
Yeah.
think here's one of the things that I feel like classics sort of flubbed, and to be fair to them at the time, they had to figure these things out because they were doing something entirely new. Most of the Princess of Power designs were based on the animation and not on the vintage toys.
Yeah.
And
So
as I have
okay, so
gone,
yeah,
as I
that's
went
true.
through this book and looked at the vintage Princess of Power toys, I feel like those designs are much better, but I understand where they felt like people would be more familiar with the
With the
Filmation version.
cartoon, yeah.
I like it's they had tough decisions to make, and I get it, but in this case, they definitely should have leaned more towards this vintage figure.
Agreed.
All right. I think that's enough about Natasa. Are you ready for your next pull?
I am. Pull me. Dave Tron.
30.
30. All right.
This the Dave Tron 2000 is a big fan of the vintage stuff.
All right. Clamp Champ. Speaking of our diversity characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Page 30, Clamp Champ, Heroic Master of Capture, released in 1987. Heroic Warrior. I'm actually about to get a vintage Clamp Champ with working clamp.
Really?
Yeah, I hooked up with a guy on Facebook Marketplace in some He-Man group, and he had a couple of. He was like, "Yeah, I've got a couple of figures I'm looking to sell," and I'm like, "What do you got?" And went on a couple. I don't actually remember what all I got. Then he kind of forgot about me, and so today, it was either today or yesterday, I was like, "Hey man, what's going on? You got a tracking number for me or whatever?" And he's like, "No, man, I'm so sorry. You got to wait for me. I'll get it in the mail today, and I'll throw some extra figures in there for you."
Oh, nice.
So there's a surprise box coming with at least a Clamp Champ with a working clamp and a couple of other things I don't remember. So I'm excited to get my hands on a really nice vintage Clamp Champ. I will say that the classics or the Origins Clamp Champ is pretty fantastic. I don't think I've had vintage Clamp Champ. I don't remember having him. And I think Clamp Champ kind of suffers from a little bit of redhead stepchild syndrome due to the fact that like they're like, well, what do we give the black guy? Okay, we're gonna put a black guy, in. So what's his shtick? What's his He-Man shtick? And they're like,
he's the champion of clamping.
He's got a clamp, So I kind of feel almost like maybe the clamp came first,
and they were waiting
like
for the right character to give it to.
Yeah, well, because a lot of things are like that, like they would develop a gimmick and be like, all right, now how do we work this gimmick into a toy?
Right.
And so they were like, well, we need to have more diversity, and it's, and so instead of being like, I mean, probably for the best that they, didn't be like, oh yeah, well, we'll make the Asian guy a ninja, because
right,
that could have gone very poorly with the African character, the character of African descent, if they had done something like that. So having Clamp Champ be Clamp Champ, like he's just dude's got a bitch and clamp,
It's all about primary colors and clamping.
That's right. And the clamp works because it was a action figure sized accessory that could grab another figure, which I think is what was really where Origins dropped the ball with Clamp Champ's clamp. It's like the old one could literally grab onto a figure and pick it up, and the new one doesn't actually lock when it clamps.
There are probably like laws about how much a toy can grasp things.
That's true.
That wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, so I've got my Origins clamp here, and it's got
some snap to it,
but
I like
it can't pick up a figure at all.
I don't. That's okay.
Well, that was the point of the gimmick, was you could grab a guy with a little clamp.
He's not called Pickup Champ, Beau. He's called Clamp Champ.
Well, if the clamp doesn't clamp, then it's not a clamp.
It clamps. It's a clamp. It's a clamper. There is clamping action.
I think they
you're
snap out. They snap out.
You're changing the definition of clamp.
The point. Look, when you use clamps, the tools, the point is they hold things together.
I bet if you took an Origins figure and you put its arms up and you clamped that around the waist, I bet you could pick it up. Look at that. Look at that. Well, I didn't say wiggle him. I said pick it. Why is Clamp Champ wiggling people? He's not I got you. He's not Norman Smiley.
Like slams them around.
He's not Norman Smiley. He's not the wiggle champ.
The play of the toy. The play factor is being able to grab them and whip them around and be like, "Haha!"
And restrain them.
Now.
He's not for abuse. He's for restraint.
Oh, okay. That's how Clamp Champ likes it.
Yes, yes, that's exactly how he likes it.
Clamp Champ and the Masters of the Universe.
I like the reuse of the armor. The blue and the silver distinguishes it from Jitsu and Fisto.
Yep. So you're looking at effectively just a head. The
head is the only new thing, but it looks good. I mean, it's a distinctive head. It's very different. Just skull. It's not. They didn't just give He-Man dark skin. Like, it's a new sculpt that looks like a black character. Did a nice job with that. He's an appealing looking figure. I like him.
No, his colors are great. I mean, he looks great. Like the blue and the skin tone. I mean, he's a very attractive looking figure. And he's kind of got a little bit of that almost like Apollo Creed red, white, and blue action going on in a way too.
Yeah. And I notice on his card, because in this book, they have the mint on card picture, the card back, the figure, the accessories, everything is in here. On his card, it says new with a little burst behind it. And I'm wondering if that was unique to the 1987 figures, because he was part of the last wave, right?
Yeah, if it was 87, well,
I think 87 was, let's see. Well, maybe not. He might have been early 87, because typically when they're, well, no, because he's on there with Ninjor, and Ninjor was definitely one of the last waves, right? Or was
well, the last wave was like Horde Trooper,
Scareglow.
Well, that's 86.
Scareglow was in the last wave. I know that for a fact.
And Gwildor.
Oh, hey, let's look at the cross cell on the back of the picture. That's
so that would have been Extendor.
Flying Fist, He-Man, Randor, Sorceress, Rio Blast, Extendar, Terraclaws, Skeletor, Scareglow, Faker. I think some of these are just randomly on here. But anyway, he's 87, so he was towards the end of the line.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
But great.
86. The Snake Men were 87. So that was really towards the end there. The Sorceress is 87.
Well, I mean, 87 was definitely the last year. Of the Masters line.
Yeah.
Great figure, cool feature, fun playability. I dig him, and good reuse of parts. Well done reuse of parts.
Yes.
All right, let's see what we got next. Hey, random number generator, can you give us something a little higher?
I'm sorry, Dave. I cannot.
Oh, it did. Beau, we are now turning to page 541.
Ooh.
Woo! Deep into the book.
Mech and Neck.
Oh, boy. It's
Plastics
Mech and Neck, the heroic human Periscope. Okay, but you know what? This is the classics Mech and Neck. So it came out in 2012. Member of the Heroic Warriors, obviously. And what's exciting about this Mech and Neck is he comes with 2 neck extension pieces that, it is ostensibly are intended to be 2 different lengths of neck, but you can combine them create one giant mega neck.
The Uba neck.
Yes. I've got him. He's maybe not the most exciting figure of all time, but he's a great update of Mech-a-Neck without having the actual functioning gimmick. Now, how do you feel about their determination that classics would not have gimmicks?
I feel
especially in light of the Origins line, which is a mass market retail line, now featuring figures with gimmicks.
I would say that by not having gimmicks, it enabled them to reuse more molds than they would have otherwise.
For sure.
And that it really boiled everything down to just plastic. That there weren't any springs or gizmos or whatever. And I think that's what made it able to reuse the amount of parts that it did. And if they had, now obviously I think that there are some pretty colossal failures when it comes to classic interpretations of vintage action features. Rio Blast comes to mind because he basically fucking sucks.
Damn.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't look good. Like everything, it doesn't look like that stuff's coming out from inside of him at all. It all just is sort of clipped on there, and I don't know.
I agree. It could have been concealed better.
Yeah, his torso thing is just way too bulky. Yeah, so that was unfortunate. So that meant that a lot of the people who had built-in armor that contained mechanisms previously, now you've got this soft, this all the armor that went on that contained any sort of action feature ended up being so much bulkier than it needed to be, and oftentimes just didn't look good because everything was just so chunky to get the detail on the armor.
So it's interesting to note that because he came out in 2012, Mechanic was technically part of the 30th anniversary portion of the classics figures. While he wasn't specifically one of the 30th anniversary figures, he does have the logo on the back of his packaging.
Now I'm very fond of this version because he's great on the back of the shelf because he can just peek up over everybody, and that's great for display.
And if they had given him a mechanism, his neck would not be as long.
Precisely.
And I think what makes this version appealing in any way is the fact that he actually does have this ridiculously long neck.
What I would like to see in a classics version, or in an Origins version that we won't see, I think we'll see a very traditional vintage style Mechanic with the waist turn. But I think that there's opportunity there to combine these two ideas, where if maybe Mechanic's head screwed off of that neck embedded, the extendable neck that's embedded in the chest, and you still had this extra piece that came with it, that could you take. I
don't think it has to screw off. I think you could still use a ball joint on that. I think it'd be
well,
fine.
But then what's going to keep it from? I mean, it needs to fit. I think straight onto that.
I think it would work. I think it would work just the same as the classics one. It'd be fine because this is a ball joint. It pops on.
Well, the thing about the classics one though is it has that neck bit. And so when you put the two pieces together, there's that blue band in between. I would like to see that second piece attach seamlessly to the embedded neck piece so that you don't see the break, that you work it into the
right. I see what you're saying.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So that you don't necessarily see the break. I think that would be great so that you could then still get that super long, cool, Mechanic actually has a really cool long neck. It's not just, hey, I can peek over the top of your head. I can actually peek over look over the battlefield.
And if they're going to have to design a new neck and a head for this one anyway for Origins, then go ahead and make it that screw-on piece. Why not?
What are your thoughts on the reflective stickers for the eyes?
It's if they're going to do them in Origins, it's a must. They have to.
Yeah.
This one is definitely lacking for just being a silver paint job. I definitely got to have that reflective on the goggles. All right. Well, I think that's about all we can say about Classics Mechanic. Are you ready for your next pick?
I am ready, Dave Tron.
424.
424. That is Chief Carnivas, heroic feline warrior.
Nice.
So Chief Carnivas is one of the 2000X characters that came from the cartoon show, and is the leader of the cat people, who were what were they called? The
Cadians?
Something, yeah.
Qadians. Cadians.
Cadians. So Chief Carnivas fills out what I call the Council of Eternia characters.
Yes.
That basically, well, so like on my shelf, they hang out over there with Randor, and you've got Stratos, Lord Dactus, the Calabar guy, and you know, basically the rulers of all the disparate races of Eternia. Right. And in my He-Man movie script in my head, it's Carnivas's cat people that are that Skeletor pretty much wages genocide on, and that's the first like opening shot of, oh crap, things are really serious. Skeletor and his people just like burned an entire nation to the ground.
You got to establish the stakes.
Yeah, and so you'd have like cat people, refugees fleeing, you know, into Eternos. You know, I think that would be a nice group of people to be sympathetic to, for the audience to sympathize with the poor cat people and their struggle. But yeah, Carnivas is cool, and I like that he has the little nod to the Eternia playset on his shield, the big cat head, and then the sword looks really cool. That's just a great design sword for, you know, any other character. Comes with a cool cape. I really like the way his armor. I really like the way his armor is on his body, where it wasn't like a big rubber shirt. Like so many of the other,
it looks like a breastplate. Like it looks
and
good.
It doesn't hinder his ab crunch. Like to me, that's how a lot of the armor should have been done.
Well, but a lot of the characters you really couldn't have done like a belly shirt type thing like that. Like for him, it works because he's a cool cat guy with furry abs. But like not everybody can pull that off.
No, and he's a good reuse of parts. You know, he's got Hero's shins there, I guess Beastman's feet, Beastman's hands, or maybe Grizzlor's hands. Yeah, actually I think those are Grizzlor hands. And then that armor, all that armor's all new, the cape's new and the head's new, and his accessories are new. The loincloth thing is new. You know, he's got a lot going on him, going for him.
It was very cool to see something like this because this was only a couple of years into the line. And the fact that they were throwing out, like, because the intent of Masters of the Universe Classics, unlike Super 7's Ultimates or some of the lines that have been sort of adjacent to this, the intent was to take characters from all of the different versions of Masters of the Universe and present them with the same aesthetic. Yes. So to see a character that had never been made before, that was from the Mike Young Productions cartoon, was a good sign of, wow, this line really is serious about including everything.
Yeah. And I enjoy this fun fact here down at the bottom where the reuse of parts wasn't just retroactive. They could, so what they did is they used the upper leg for Grizzlor. So they used this part on Chief Carnivas, knowing that they were going to use it for Grizzlor in the future.
Right.
Which is cool. It's not just like, oh, what parts do we have that we've already tooled? Okay, well, we can create characters that, like, the roadmap was so well thought out that you were able to be like, cool, we'll put Chief Carnivas in here, and no one's going to see him coming. And then, boom, we've got our Grizzlor legs for the Grizzlor that we know we were going to do later on. It's pretty smart.
I feel like they had a similar situation with Buzz-Off and Whiplash. With their armor. I can't remember which one was first, but there was a similar kind of thing where they were going to do one of them first, and they were like, let's go ahead and do this guy first because we know it'll create the parts for this other guy. but this one will be a little more exciting to get in early in the line. Or it
Yeah,
might have been
I
one of
think
the Horsemen's favorites or something along those lines.
I think it's a fascinating way to build the roadmap of like how each new figure feeds into the larger, tooling pool that you
The
have to
pool,
pull
right,
from.
right.
And so you're charting out the line so far in advance that you can see, okay, well, if we can get these figures out, that gives us these, and Origins is definitely embracing that. They're going for all of the reuse out of the gate.
Well, and in addition to that, they used that Masters of WWE line for a lot of their tooling as well, because you saw a lot of the parts that showed up in Origins in that WWE line first.
Well, you saw some of them in WWE first too. I think, right?
That's what I'm saying is you saw Beastman's armor.
Yes.
The Lords of Power Beastman. You saw his armor in WWE before it was in the Origins line. So they kind of used that little connection where they had that budget to create figures for WWE because it had the WWE name on it. And then we're able to take those things and use them in Origins. Although there are some other, and this is a whole other episode, there's some other pieces that you'd think would have been reused that were not. But that's a discussion for another day.
I didn't know that the sword, sword of Saz, was intentionally the red gem, the circular red gem on it is a intentional nod to the Thundercat sword.
Oh, interesting. No, I didn't realize that either. Yeah, how nice is that? And I actually could put this guy right alongside my Super 7 Ultimates Thundercats, and he would fit right in.
He would.
All right.
You ready for yours?
I'm ready. Our random number generator is not, its range is not impressive. But we'll go ahead and go. Well, let me ask you this. Should we do 473, which we know is going to be another Classics figure, or should we roll again? Don't look.
Without cheating, without skipping ahead to 473?
Without skipping ahead to 473, do we roll again?
Roll again.
Let's roll again.
Roll again.
731.
Okay.
Although that's far enough out that might not. I don't even know if Classics is the last thing in this book.
It is not.
No, it sure isn't. Okay, so we're going way ahead. Wow, what the heck is this going to even be? Whoa, this is like way too. Oh boy. Okay, well, this is fine because we need to discuss this. This is Man-at-Arms, Heroic Master of Weapons. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, well, which Man-at-Arms is it? This is the Super 7 Filmation Man-at-Arms, first released in 2019. These are basically the updated vintage version. So they're the squatty 5-ish inch scale figures, but instead of the little ropes in their legs, they have actual joints. They're the same form built with modern methods, I would say.
But they have the vintage articulation.
Yes. It's not
like
Origins. Yeah. It's the exact same. No elbow joints, no knee joints, no ankles. The same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of articulation of the original vintage line, but with crisper detail, sturdier armor and accessories, an upgrade on what you had when you were a kid.
Well, and I think that the intent of this line was to, if you were the kid that said, man, my Hordak doesn't look like the Hordak on Shira.
Right.
My Man-at-Arms figure doesn't look like Man-at-Arms on the cartoon. That's what this was for.
And this was the line that Super 7 was doing that I was most tempted by, because when I was a kid, that is what I wanted.
Yeah. I will say that the Orko does look pretty great.
We're not talking about Orko, Mr. Beau Brown.
No, he's not.
We're talking about this Man-at-Arms who is a deeper green. His armor is a little more yellow and a little less Well, I guess the original Man-at-Arms is pretty yellow as well. It's not the orange that we've seen in some of the Palace Guards and stuff. But it is basically Man-at-Arms with a mustache and a Filmation style club, and then whatever this ray is that he comes with,
That's
the stasis ray.
It's the stasis ray, Dave.
Thank you. If this is the sort of thing you're into, he's great. Super 7 did more of these than you realize. And
they did have the pullback waists.
Do they? I don't even know. Oh, yeah, they do. It says it on the back of the card right here. So they do still have the punch action. I mean, it's if you find one, this is a solid figure. It's a good Man-at-Arms for your collection if you have a vintage style collection. I like this guy. I don't know that there's much more to say about him, though.
No.
Then let's move on to Beau's next randomly generated page number. Give us something low, random number generator. Oh, thank you. Beau, turn your book to page 81.
81. All right.
Oh, we're back into the vintage.
Definitely. 81 is nothing. Is an interview with Mark Ellis, page 2.
So do we move ahead a page to get to the next?
I would move ahead a page. I'll be happy with Modulok, Evil Beast of 1,000 Bodies.
All right.
So vintage Modulok, which I definitely had. I still have some of my old vintage Modulok pieces. Modulok was a fantastic toy because he was literally just a box of body parts. You could, he was just a box. There wasn't a blister. He was literally just a box with a bag of red body parts on the inside. And you could put them together into a bunch of different ways. And was just super fun. And the fact that you could buy multiple sets of it and then make your Modulok bigger. And then they released, what's the other one?
Multibot,
and then they were compatible. It was almost like they were sitting around with the parts that they, the reuse parts, and they were like, what if we just made the kids do it themselves?
I remember rows and rows of Modulok and Multibot on the shelves at Toys R Us and Lionel Play World.
Really?
Just sitting there. And Modulok always creeped me out. Like it was a toy that made me uncomfortable. And it's mainly that front head with the big white eyes that looks like kind of the classic alien head. Like, do you remember the little eraser guys?
Well, look, he kind of looks like that Universal Monster alien guy, kind of, right?
The Metaluna mutant.
Is that it?
Not really. There's another sort of generic. I want to say maybe Invaders from Mars. There is a particularly vicious looking alien that this and a number of other. No, because Invaders from Mars is okay. Here's the original one. I want 1953, please. No, this isn't what I'm thinking of either. But it's a particularly vicious variant of the gray alien that looks like this. And do you remember the little eraser people you'd get in school? Like you'd go to the school store and they'd have little monsters that were erasers. There was like a mud guy and a Sasquatch guy and an alien guy. These you're only a couple years younger than me.
Yeah.
I feel like you would.
They probably had those there at school.
But anyway, this thing creeped me the heck out. I didn't like it. I think it's a fantastic toy.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent addition to the Masters of the Universe line, especially when you incorporate Multibot. And
if you think about had John Carpenter's The Thing come out in 1985?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thing
So,
was 82, I think.
yeah. So when you're talking about, how so many of the members of the Horde are reminiscent of monsters, of recognizable monsters, Modulok is definitely your thing, right?
Yes.
Because he's all just legs and elbows.
You're right. He is the thing.
Yep.
Wow, I never thought of that before. Okay, 1980s monster erasers, vintage space aliens. I thought they had a name, Diener Space Raiders. I don't think that's it. All right. Well, I can't find anything specific that's exactly what I'm thinking of, but if I do, I'll share it on the Needless Things podcasting Instagram page, and everybody can see what I'm talking about. Although I bet oh my gosh, this one in particular. Hang on, I got to try and send this to you real quick. This
I don't
this
have
is
any
old.
real.
Oh, you don't have a chat ability? Okay.
No, I'm just on my phone, so not really.
Okay.
Me screwing with it.
All right. Well, that's fine. I'll share this on the Needless Things podcast Instagram. But yeah, Modulok, awesome. He is. If you want to define a compelling toy, then one that you can take apart, put together in so many different ways, this is it. You can give him one head, two heads, however many arms, legs you want. Just brilliant design, endless playability.
Yep. And I like the idea that you can buy two, and then it's not just two. Like, you can do more with two.
Yeah, well, you can create two separate. You've got two heads right here. You can create two separate characters, which is what I would have wanted to do if I'd been able to stomach the idea of having this thing in my house, which I would not have been able to. All right, let's see what's next for me. 530, probably back into classics. Oh gosh.
All right.
Here's all I can really say about Madame Raz is the instant I received my Madame Raz, because at this point in Masters of the Universe Classics, you had to do the all-in thing where you signed up for the entire year. If you wanted to be sure, because this was the time of the instant sellouts, you could not count on getting the figures unless you subscribed for the whole year. And at this point, it was worth it to me to do that. The instant Madame Raz arrived, I put her up on eBay. I wanted this out of my house. Not a fan of the character, not a fan of the figure, don't care about Broom. Just was not anything I needed to own in any way at all. Possibly the fastest turnaround of anything in the classics. I think this is my least desired figure of the entire Masters of the Universe Classics collection.
Wow, those are strong words.
I think so. I can't, not even the Star Sisters, because even they had some redeeming qualities. I actually wanted Lukian Cowl. I can't think of anybody that was less appealing to me than Madame Raz. Even the rabbit.
Wow, even Plundar, huh?
Even Plundar.
Wow. All right.
So what are your feelings on Shira's witchy pal?
Well, I feel like she's a great example of that idea of classics bringing everything together, because Madame Raz didn't have an original release. So here's a character that was featured in every single episode of the series, never got a toy. In fact, two characters.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't have done her. That's just my personal feelings about her.
Oh, well, I mean, and my personal feelings, I mean, I think was necessary. And then, I mean, if you want to, I mean, just from a toy perspective, she's 100% new parts.
Yes.
That's all new tooling. Every single piece of her is brand new. And you know what? If you look at that side view of her down there, she, I think, takes the crown for like the biggest rack of any classics character.
Yes.
She's got she's got it up front, man. She's kind of got a flat nothing going on in the back there, but He's bringing all the Eternians to the yard.
This
Or all
figure
the Eternians to the yard.
This figure disturbs me more than Modulok.
Wow. Okay. Are you afraid she's going to tickle you with her little toes?
Yikes.
Her little toe shoes?
I don't know what those shoes are for. I don't like it at all. I don't like anything. There is not one aspect of this character design that I find acceptable or appealing in any way.
Oh, dearie my, Dave. Put your
Oh,
head
stop
upon my
it.
comforting
Ugh.
bosom.
Ugh.
Razzle dazzle, Dave.
Horrible.
Razzle-dazzle.
Horrible. And Beau, I know we're all very busy people, and we don't all have time to listen to the Needless Things podcast. But we discovered on our most recent Needless commentary what witches actually use their brooms for.
Oh, they fly around on, right?
In a sense. So
well,
if the listeners want to hear about that, because we're going to try and keep this episode slightly more family fucking friendly, you can go back and listen to the most recent Needless commentary, where we address.
What was that broom? I couldn't quite make it out. You're kind of muffled.
You're muffled. yeah, that's it.
All right, moving on.
Let's move on now. Was that that was mine, wasn't it?
That was yours.
All right. Oh my gosh, come on, random. We're going again. It threw me a 508.
Oh.
Come on. 235.
235. That's good. That's right. That feels in the middle area there.
Yeah, like a range we haven't explored yet. Oh yeah. Oh. Yes.
Oh, lucky duck.
Oh, baby. We pulled a winner. Tell us about it.
Oh, yes. Optic. I believe this was a vintage New Adventures figure that I did have. He's very sort of...
He's an eyeball on top of a suit of armor.
He's an... what he reminds me of, what his body reminds me of, is those robots from Ice Pirates.
Yes.
It reminds me of that sort of 80s Star Wars, not Star Wars.
Well, it's the 80s, very clearly a guy in a suit pretending to be a robot.
Yes, precisely. That's exactly what this looks like to me. And I don't know, the gun is kind of lame. I mean, it's a great concept, you know. I think probably a more exciting concept of one of the evil mutants than some of them. You know, like at least he has like a giant eyeball. He's not just a guy with a whip. You know, like
he's not quacky.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually has a mutant, like he's a mutant, like he's literally got a freaking eyeball for a head. That's pretty mutated.
I think this figure is absolutely he might be one of my top 10 action figures of all time.
Whoa.
Oh, okay. Top 10 action figure designs of all time.
Okay. Well, I don't know, because I feel like you could stick this guy into anything. Like yes. He could be a Star Wars character. He could be a Toxic Avengers character.
He would be a Star Wars character in the Marvel comics.
Yeah.
But that's what I think is so great about him is he doesn't have the stink of New Adventures on him.
Right.
Much like you mentioned Slushhead before, I think Slushhead rises above New Adventures as well.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, for as far as all the evil warriors go, you know, he and Slushhead are the ones that are interesting, because all the rest of them are just sort of like guys.
Well, some of them have dumb gimmicks, but like are actually still really cool designs. I like Flog as a character, but
he's just a guy with a whip. I mean,
but if you look at the figure though, the figure's a really wacky design. Like I actually like his figure. I like Discs of Doom Skeletor. It's fucking bonkers weird.
Yeah.
Like, why has he got a box on his head? I don't know, but it's cool. I
don't know. To me, New Adventures just felt like it was all the reasons that I kind of didn't like.
And I understand that, but if you just look at the designs of these figures, they're so weird and like eye candy.
The evil mutants are.
Well, yeah, the mutants are.
The Warriors are just freaking.
Well, yeah, but who cares about the Warriors? But look at Karate with his bronze underpants and his thigh-high boots. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I really love Lizor. Like,
yeah, at least
he's a Gorn. He's an armored Gorn. He totally is.
The Galactic Defenders or whatever
they're boring as shit.
Super boring.
But the most of the mutants in New Adventures, I would honestly really like to collect them. And I'll go so far as to say I'd also like to have the vehicles.
There are some pretty cool vehicles. Yeah.
I think there's some really cool vehicles from this line as well. It's just the heroes are all just boring as shit.
Completely forgettable.
They look like they're from a line called like Captain Commander and the Star People.
Exactly. They look like sort of shitty Silverhawk G.I. Joe guys.
Calm down with your G.I. Joe bashing. I don't appreciate it in these parts.
I'm saying Hydron is such a freaking G.I. Joe. Hydron and Flipshot are absolutely G.I. Joes.
They're 90s G.I. Joes. They're not 80s G.I. Joes.
Missile armor Flipshot.
Look at KO. What a piece of shit. Yeah. Although he's clearly supposed to be sort of Chuck Norris-y. Like, I actually think there was a Chuck Norris Karate Commando that looked exactly like this. All right, anyway.
KO has a really interesting look going on his uniform. No, he doesn't. What are you talking about? He's got a wife beater and
red underpants and blue tights
on the outside. Yeah, I don't know where Pixel Dan is coming off here with KO.
Pixel Dan is being a little generous with some of these. But back to Optic, back to page 235. Optic is just fucking killer. Like, he's the kind of figure that if you're walking around at like a vintage toy convention and you see him just sitting on a table, you're going to pick him up and be like, what is this? I think I want this. Even if you don't collect these at all, like, he's just a really compelling looking figure. I love this figure, and I'm gonna have to find a vintage Optic soon.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for you. Just because we're here, flip back and forth between Flog and Hook'em Flog, and tell me what you think the what raw deal did Life
hang on.
Under Skeletor has not treated Flog well.
Hang on, I have to skip past Butthead. Okay, Flog and Hooker Flog. Hook'em Flog.
It's on the next page.
You know what? I actually think I prefer Hook'em Flog.
Well, his legs don't look as ridiculous as
Flog's legs are pretty bad.
They bulk up his legs a lot.
Well, and his knee joints are horrendous.
Yes,
but Hook'em Flog, like, first of all, he comes with a grappling hook, which is an instant win for an 80s toy.
Fair enough.
His head looks better. I don't quite get his armor around his neck.
Keeps you from getting your head chopped off.
Sure. Okay, that's good. That's important. It looks like do you remember the movie Wild Wild West? When the evil spider professor played by Kenneth Branagh puts the things around Will Smith and Kevin, it puts the things around their necks. It kind of looks like that.
I'm curious, on the back of his card, the first Flog, he has a name of Flog on the back of the card.
Right.
And on Hook'em Flog, his name is Brack.
Whoa.
What?
What day is
on with
it?
that?
Would you please tell me? What day is it? I've got bills, you see.
Several figures were given alternate names for their foreign releases. Hook'em Flog is known as Hook'em Brat outside the US. That explains it. So this is an international.
Yeah, he can only find
version of the box.
a foreign card,
found.
which is why all the languages are at the top in that burst.
Yes. That makes sense. Okay, well, now I know.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! All right, let's move on.
You want to go on a date?
All right. Random number generator.
A salad.
Wait, is it me again? Or is it you? Oh, I forgot to write down Flog.
We did Optic. So that was me. It's you.
Optic was you, yes, because I had Madame Raz. I just wrote down Flog instead of Optic because we got really excited about Flog for some reason. So this is
interesting. Real quick on Optic before we move on. It looks like if you look on the pages between the blue and the green pages for the Heroic Warriors and the Evil Mutants, Optic's eye is the symbol that they chose to denote the Evil Mutants, the space.
It is. And I also noted, and you can rotate the eye on the figure. There's a dial on his back that spins the eye on the figure. But if you notice the mint in box one, the eye is turned around backwards.
Oh, nice.
All right. Let's move on. So I guess this is my next pick, which is probably going to be another shit box of a character. Okay, 598. Woof. Oh boy.
Oh, lucky you.
Oh no, I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Okay. Take it. Sir Laserlot, invented by Jeff Johns as part of the 30th anniversary that we mentioned before. Now, this was actually part of the special 30th anniversary subwave that was part of Masters of the Universe Classics. And it was a separate subscription from the main line of 2012. 2012 was a big fucking year because they had...
It was the 30th anniversary He-Man year, yeah.
Right, it was the 30th anniversary. So they had the mainline release, they had the 30th anniversary subline, and then I think we got more deluxe figures and bigger things that year. I feel like this might have been the biggest year of the classics line. But Sir Laserlot, to celebrate the 30th anniversary, rather than doing deluxe versions of classic characters or re-releasing He-Man or doing anything that quite frankly made any kind of fucking sense at all for the 30th anniversary, they did some weird shit. And Sir Laserlot is one of the weird shits that they did. Comic book writer and now movie and TV producer and head of DC and whatever else he does, Jeff Johns, created and designed this character that I feel is one of the more successful of the 30th anniversary figures. Because, well, you know what? I say that.
You say that, but yeah, I mean, what's that based on?
Honestly, they were all pretty good.
Yeah. Drago Man's fucking bad.
Drago Man's great. I have grown to love the Mighty Spector for what he is. Photog is awesome.
Well, Photog, I mean,
because of what he is.
That's where this idea came from. Was it all came from Photog?
Right.
You know, it was like, okay, so the 30th anniversary, we're gonna release Photog, and we're gonna do a callback to the old contest, the Create a Character contest. And instead of having a new contest, we'll release Photog, and we'll let a couple of people throw out their own things, which I'm sure, you know, was Scott's idea to be like, yeah, everybody gets to do their own figure,
including me,
which
is fine.
You know, and he earned it, which is totally fine.
Absolutely earned it.
And so, you know, he got Jeff and Sir Laserlot. I mean, like, he's just Rio Blast,
dude. he looks straight out of the Filmation cartoon.
Yeah.
You can 100% picture this character showing up initially as an antagonist.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I didn't realize you were good guys. Now I can protect my temple from Skeletor. Let's join forces, He-Man. Like, that would totally be this guy's story, which he actually has a story, but I can't read the tiny print here, and I'm certainly not digging my cards.
He has a power gem that enables him to make light constructs.
And he's got I'm a big sucker for the second only to glow in the dark stuff for me. It's translucent stuff. And he's got a translucent mace. A laser mace, a laser sword, and apparently a laser ponytail.
That's the feather. It's the big plume.
His feathered headdress plume thing coming out of his helmet is the same translucent material. He's a basic design, but he perfectly fits into the 80s aesthetic of Masters of the Universe. I think it's a great figure. I really like it. He's striking. He's actually at the front of my shelf. He's not even in the back. I like this guy. I like the design. And
he's got Optics pelvis.
Yes, he has Optics pelvis.
All right. Spin the Davatron.
All right. You don't have any more do you want to do? No further thoughts about Sir Laserlot?
I mean, I think that he fits squarely in that Rio Blast, Ninjor, kitchen sink mentality, and even a knight type character in a sword and sorcery. There's castles.
Yeah,
in He-Man. This doesn't. I can't see any grounds for saying he doesn't belong here.
He could either team up with or fight Extendar, and it would work out really well.
I think I agree with what you say. The plot would be that Skeletor wants some sort of artifact that Sir Laserlot has been quested to guard and defend.
Yes.
So he manipulates He-Man and the heroic warriors into going in first,
right,
to defeat the guy, and then he's and Laserlot's of course doing his duty to protect it. And then the battle ensues. Skeletor sneaks in during the battle and steals the thing, and then they have to team up to be. It writes itself.
He would be kind of like the Grail Knight in Last Crusade.
Absolutely, yeah, that's perfect.
All right, let's move on. Let's see what we got. Come on, generator, give us a low number again. That's not a low number. It gave us 611. Let's take a sneaky peek at 611 and then see if we want to try again.
I'm sneaking a peek at Snake Man at Arms.
Oh, let's fucking do it again, because I am not a fan of Snake Man at Arms, and really, that's all we need to say about him.
You're on the same circlet of Serpos, which is cool because it gave King Hiss. I have had that item. That accessory has been on my King Hiss since I got it. He is always holding it because the snake staff suck, and they never gave us the Amulet of Serpos, so that was the only real unique Snake Men accessory that they even made.
Yeah.
And it was heavily, it was featured heavily on the show. It's a great man. If you take the Snake Man head off, this was your
2000X Man at Arms.
2000X Man at Arms.
Yeah, which is what I did. So I guess okay. I'm glad they did this because I used this body. But exactly. I just dislike the Snake Man at Arms concept so much.
I agree. I don't care for it. I don't think it's the way that Duncan should have gone out. I like the idea that that there would have been a passing of the torch to a new Man at Arms, and whether that was Clamp Champ or whatever. But it was really just a sort of writing decision to be like, hey, we need to sell Snake Men vehicles, but they don't have anybody who makes vehicles. So it just seemed like such a weird plot twist.
Well, we talked
selling toys that they didn't even make.
We talked earlier about raising the stakes or showing the stakes, and this was a way of showing the stakes and really nothing more.
Agreed.
All right. Well, let's pretend that didn't happen. Or I guess it did happen. Whatever. So that was yours, right?
Yes.
So Snake Man at Arms. Next up, and we'll just do a couple more and then we'll wrap this thing up. Because honestly, we could do this episode again in a few months.
We could do it every month for like 5 years.
All right.
Dave Tron.
152.
Ooh.
Going back to the beginning. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm just going to draw again. We're going to draw again. 232. Oh, geez. Maybe it's time to wind this thing down.
What are those Star Trek aliens? The Gorn?
That's what I said earlier when we were going through all these guys. It looks like we're going to take 232. I got to make a note here. I've been writing all of these down. So this is Lizor from New Adventures, which we've already covered twice as many New Adventures characters as I cared to cover. Came out in 1990, member of the Space Mutants, and it is essentially the Gorn from Star Trek, the famous lizard person that Captain Kirk fist fought in front of those rocks that are so famous. Right down to the fact that it has the one shoulder singlet on. Like even what it's wearing is the Gorn. But honestly, pretty cool figure. I like the helmet with the one horn on the side. The gun is lame in the same way that all New Adventures guns are lame.
Yeah.
He's got this really bizarre backpack that looks like a pipe organ hand.
It's a climate control backpack. It keeps them cool.
Oh, see? So that actually makes sense. Oh, yeah, it keeps him warm. That makes sense. This is another one. If I'm at a retro toy convention and I see this guy on a table, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is kind of cool. Is he if he's under $10, I'm buying him.
Yeah. I would certainly take a Lizor over the hot steaming pile of
Please
mess
don't.
that is on the next
page.
No,
we're not even going to talk about missile armor flip shot.
Thanks. I would rather not.
Good Lord.
Christ.
You want to talk about the hideous repaints of 2000X? This is even worse.
It looks like a 2-up. It looks like a prototype where they just sort of molded the shit out of whatever plastic color they had laying around.
So see, this is where my original method of randomly choosing would come in handy, because we know we haven't talked about any 2000X.
All right, fine. Let's go to the 2000X section and spin the pages. Or you can random number generate between
was Lizzo. Oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
277 and 277 and 380.
All right. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. 363.
363.
Oh. Now, see, I wanted that. This was not the vehicle I wanted necessarily, but I did want to land on a 2000X vehicle because I completely ignored the vehicles because I just didn't have the space for them. I lived in an apartment at the time, and I was collecting the figures and just had nowhere to put vehicles like this.
Yeah.
So we are looking at, on page 363, the Spit Bull. Came out in 2003, vehicle of the Heroic Warriors. This was the Snake Men era. And all of the 2000X vehicles are pretty weird.
Yeah.
Because it seems that they're almost intended to be sort of cyborg characters.
Well, that's how vintage figures were. I mean, look at Landshark. So many of them.
Yeah,
are that. I mean, the Wind Raider is a giant, or the Talon Fighter is a giant bird ship. And
but I feel like these even more so look like This looks like it's intended to be a giant robot dog.
Yes. Not a vehicle that looks
right.
has dog features. Yeah.
And yet the heroic warriors have a little seat on the back to ride it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing, but toy design wise, here's the problem with all of the 2000X vehicles is how awkwardly the guns are attached.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, because this was not the Four Horsemen, this was the Mattel design team did all of the vehicles. And for some reason, they designed the vehicles, and with every single one of them, they said, "Oh fuck, we have to put guns on this," and just like slapped on. Like if you look at the 2000X Battle Cat, it's horrendous with those big guns just sticking out of the saddle. This guy is not as bad because his cannon is mounted on the controls that the pilot uses. I really like the effect that shoots out of his mouth. I think that's really neat. And I like the overall design of this guy, but it just doesn't scream He-Man to me.
I mean, it screams He-Man as much as so many of the other animal-inspired vehicles do, or sort of techno-organic. I mean, you know, like the Roton's got a big freaking face on it, you know? But
I think my problem is the legs. If this looked more like a tank with that same face on it,
I agree.
I would like it more. But the fact that it is entirely dog-shaped just makes it a little too whimsical to me.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this one was featured in the show.
Was it really?
Yeah, it's on the show. So this was one of the handful of where Mattel was like, we gotta sell vehicles. We're going to use the show to sell vehicles, which is part of why they came up with the Snake Man at Arms concept.
Right.
This is the kind of vehicles you would see in the next season that Man at Arms is building for the Snake Man.
Yeah, this is I don't know, it's weird. Again, if I was at a toy show and this guy was under $20, I'd probably pass on him. I don't need to own this.
I would probably pick it up just because I have a pretty sizable 2000X collection still that I would be okay getting this in there, but I wouldn't pay top dollar for it.
I've got a lot of the figures, but I have the only thing I've got is the only mount I've got is Battle Cat. And I took his guns off because I do not like them.
All right, you want to do another?
Do we want to do another 2002, or do we want to open it back up?
Whichever.
Let's open it back up. So what was it, 20 to 751, I think?
Correct.
Let's see what we get. 204.
204 is
back in Princess of Power.
Yeah, Popland.
Oh.
Starburst Shira.
So tell us about, because this was one of the variants that people really wanted in the classics line, if I'm remembering correctly.
Correct. She's I think basically the equivalent of like Thunder Punch He-Man. I think that she was, other than Bubble Power Shira, which is the one variant we did get in classics of Shira.
Right.
I think that people definitely felt like that Bubble Power Shira should have been this one instead. But when you look at how they did a lot of the capes in classic Shira, Natasha comes to mind. Like how would this have even worked?
Right.
Whereas with Bubble Power Shira, they were like, oh, we just have to give her this other accessory that doesn't shoot bubbles. So I think that may have been the choice. Like, how would they have done this in classics?
Right, because they weren't doing soft goods, and this cape could not be done effectively in plastic or vinyl or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of it was that she had a sort of mat outside of the cape, and then the inside of the cape was a, she dazzled and blinded you.
Right, that's the Starburst. The closest classics would have gotten to this would have been to do a mechanism similar to Sorceress's wings, I think. Yeah. And that just wouldn't have looked good. But this figure, another great version of Shira from Princess of Power. I love this cape. I would love to see this in Origins.
With soft goods?
Sure. Shira has soft goods.
Yeah. I would say, well, but only the anniversary the anniversary Shira has soft goods.
No, the mass market
one. Right. She does that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. What would you feel about would it have the action feature? Would it have the arms popping up action feature?
No, because the arms are articulated with Origins in such a way that you could just pose them up. I wouldn't need them to flip up like that because then you would lose some of the articulation. Gotcha. But if they wanted to do it as a deluxe figure that way, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm just saying they don't have to.
Right.
But she's got a great crown / mask, whatever that piece is.
Yeah, lots of cool like hologram stickers on it. I bet, seeing this thing under the light in person and having it in hand, I bet it's just, stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything looks great about the design. I like her chest piece. I honestly, I would really like to see this figure done in Origins, even if they do it as one of the Mattel Creations special releases. Mm-hmm. Something along those lines they could do really effectively, I think. But it looks great. She's got the super long hair in the back. Good design, great figure. And I got to say, I think opening with Thunder Punch He-Man and closing with Starburst Shira
was pretty solid.
Is not a bad idea. So to wrap this up, this is not the only book about Masters of the Universe that's out there. This is the one, obviously, that's easily digestible. And if you've got, 10 or 15 minutes at a time to run through some pages, but Dark Horse has also published a more in-depth look at the creation and design of the toys. There is a collection of the mini comics, and there is a basically encyclopedia of the Filmation cartoon. And then there's also, not by Dark Horse, but a separate release, his name just fell out of my head. Who's the Filmation guy?
James Etok.
What was it?
Etok?
No, the guy that started Filmation. Hang on, I'm looking at
Lou Schweimer?
Yes, Lou Schweimer. Lou Schweimer has a book out about the whole history of Filmation, not just Masters of the Universe, but everything. That's fantastic.
What do you mean? He's dead.
Right, but before he passed, hang on.
Oh, really? I didn't know he'd put out a book before he died.
Whoops. Hang on. I'm getting there. Creating the Filmation Generation, Lou Schweimer. 2012 autobiography, which he wrote with Andy Mangels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it is absolutely fantastic. Recommended reading for any child of the 80s or 60s or 70s, really, I guess. Yeah. Lots of great resources out there for Masters of the Universe. It just so happens that Pixel Dan has put out the one that's you will connect with the most intimately through the pictures of the toys and everything else.
Well, and I think that the story of this book is really great too. And if you read the afterword in the back, the amount of effort and love and work and time and travel that it took to physically track down every single piece.
Yeah, none of these are stock pictures. This is all original photography done for this volume
from people's personal collections.
Right.
So they were going into people's houses, going into people's collections,
setting up his little light box.
Yeah, and it's just, talk about a labor of love, and yeah, It's an incredible, impressive feat.
And I think if there is anybody that loves Masters of the Universe as much as Scott Knightlick, it's Pixel Dan.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got plenty more of this. I've fortunately made notes about everything that we talked about today. So if we do a future installment of this, we will know what we've already covered. For the listeners, if you enjoyed this, please let us know. You can follow Needless Things on Twitter, join the Needless Things podcast Facebook group. Tell us if you want more content like this. There are all kinds of other resources that we could sit and flip through and talk about. But for now, Mr. Beau Brown, thank you for returning to the Needless Things podcast. And once again, talking about Masters of the Universe, can you please sign us out?
Good journey.
Good journey. Next week, right here on the Needless Things podcast, our Black Friday extravaganza, where we will have many guests sitting down to discuss the weirdest, strangest things that they can find that are gift suggestions on the internet. We are going to have a lot of fun with this one. It's going to be a little wild. It's going to be a little crazy. All of your favorite, most of your favorite Needless Things irregulars will be in attendance. We had a couple that, unfortunately, because of scheduling, could not make it. But you know, it's going to be a good time anyway, and we'll get them back on as soon as we possibly can. You know, we will. Again, no needless commentary this month. The scheduling just didn't work out. But next month we will be back. And you know how we like to do in December. And I'm just going to leave that hanging so you can think of it what you will. And then in January, today, I ordered January's Needless Commentary because we've actually known what that's going to be for like a year now. And I think we might have even said it in this past January's, I guess it wasn't a Needless Commentary at the time, but whatever we were doing then, the remote conversations about movies. I don't know. You guys, Thanksgiving is coming. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I will eat a lot of food. I am off that day. That is my one day off next week is Thanksgiving, so I will enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy your time, whether you're sitting alone eating turkey, whether you have to see your family or whatever. Remember, I love you guys.
You have been listening to a Needless Things podcast. You can follow Needless Things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at needlessthingspodcast.com. Love you. Mean it. Uh-huh.